Hi everyone. We are headed into week 12. It's hard to believe we're at this point in the semester already. So I want to go over a few of the important things that are going on this week. You'll see that you have a draft of your reader's guide. So that's going to be the entire reader's guide. That may sound daunting to you, but it's really probably not as daunting as you think, since you have done a lot of the work of the reader's guide already in your editor's intro drafts and as well as in all of your research logs. So a lot of the reader's guide, especially the collection of sources and the glossary of key terms, is going to be you going back into your research logs and pulling out that information that you need and rearranging it in your reader's guide. So you'll see that I have a reader's guide checklist here. So I usually have students do this next week, since your reader's guide is due next Friday. But I put it up for this week as well, so you'll do it twice. But this is really just to help guide you in seeing what you might need to work on for each section as you turn in this first draft. So you can click through here, and your goal for the draft of the reader's guide is to do as much of this as possible. So your grade depends on whether or not you have each of these sections, significantly started. Okay, so you cannot have empty sections and get full credit for the draft. The only thing that you don't need to worry about, and which I say at the top of this document, is we have not done this yet. Okay, so that's the final phase of the inquiry project, which we'll be getting into on Wednesday, but that you do not need to include for your reader's guide on Monday. Okay, so that is meant to help you. I would just have that open alongside you as you're working on the reader's guide draft. So you're going to submit a draft by having it in your your group's Google folder. So make sure that you're starting it in there and title it your first name and reader's guide. Okay. And then you're just going to submit the URL at the top to your Google Doc and submit that to Canvas here. So that it's the same way that you submitted the fixed up draft of the editor's intro. You'll notice in the assignment that you can use either Google Docs or Google Slides to create your so you're creating an ebook basically. So Google Slides may have some more design choices for you. It's really up to you. I have had a handful of students that did Google Slides. And some of them I couldn't even tell that they were using Google Slides or Google Docs. So whichever one you would like to work in is fine, but you still have to follow the same formatting for each of these. All right. So as you open your new document for your reader's guide, just go through. I suggest just going through and adding the different sections that you need. Each one of them will tell you whether it needs to be a title or a heading one, etc. Okay, and you'll have a link up to those sample ones, sample student ones if you need one to reference. Most of these sections are heading ones, but the collection of sources, basically you're going back into your research logs and pulling out the bibliographic information, the hyperlink, and the summary for each source, but putting them in the order that you described in your editor's intro and that you probably laid out in that organizing sources activity. You'll want to revise your summary. So, maybe your first few summaries were not so great and they could be better now looking back at them. So this is when you want to start doing that. Also, those last two sources that you found, if you have not done the summaries for them, you'll need to include that in this draft. Okay, your glossary of key terms, you can see usually 5 to 8 terms is sufficient. If you feel you need more, then that's fine, as long as you feel it's necessary for those terms to be defined for people to understand your topic very well. So think of your peers. Do they need the term defined or not? So for example, they probably do not need to define social media or smartphone unless one of your authors is using it in a way that is completely unexpected. So you want to define terms that the general public would not know about. Okay, and then you have a brief about the editor, so about you, that you'll put there at the end. Okay, so a lot of this you have done already if you've been keeping up with the research logs and the editor's intro drafts. Okay, so the next thing that you'll do for Wednesdays, you will do a peer response to your group members' Reader's Guide drafts. So you want to decide how you're going to do that feedback. You can continue to use the comments feature if you like, but you all need to be in agreement on that. So you may want to email each other about that on Tuesday and figure out if you want to do the comments feature, meet via Zoom, or some other way. But you all do need to do the same thing, okay? And remember that, your group members are going to be evaluating you on your involvement in the peer review process. And this is the first time you'll be taking up the issue of design as well, since you've had that digital design studio. Okay. And then on Wednesday also, you're going to do a draft of the very last phase of the editors, sorry, not the editors, of the inquiry project of the Reader's Guide. So this is, I think, kind of a fun way to close out your research. And if you remember, we started your research with a question, and you're going to end your research with a question, okay? So this mirrors the guiding question infographic that you did at the beginning of your project. It is very similar. And instead of a topic you're going to research in our class, instead you're imagining a question that you would have if you had another semester to continue looking into your topic. Okay, so if this was a 2-semester class, which it's not, but if it was, and if you had another semester and you were to continue researching your topic, knowing what you now know about your topic, what would your new research question be? What would your new guiding question be? And so what you're going to do with this infographic is you'll include both your original guiding question and your new question. So we call it a projected inquiry, because you're projecting into the future as to what you would research if you had the time. You're not actually going to have to go out and do the research, so you do not need to do any additional research for this part of the project. All you need to do is look back at your Reader's Guide, at the sources in your Reader's Guide, at things that you said about those sources that have led you to this new question. Okay, so anything that you include is going to be something that led you to this new question. It could even be information from your group members' your group members' topics that you found really interesting and that influenced your idea for what you would propose to research if you had another semester. Okay, so again, this assignment does not ask you to do any additional research. You are just looking for what led to you to this new question from your research and anything else that you wrote in your Reader's Guide. Okay, so here are some examples here. To what extent are social media users affected by their online audience? Okay, so they did their research, their Reader's Guide on this question, and then at the end of the semester, they came up with this question: what does the presence of clickbait culture reveal about society? Okay, so you'll want to include, basically, you want to show us a path from your original guiding question to your new question. All right. Okay, and then for Friday, let me go back. You're going to do a peer response to those editors' inquiry sorry, I skipped this here. You're going to do a revision plan, very similar to what you did last week for the editor's intro, a revision plan for what you plan to do to your reader's guide, keeping in mind that you will have a week to work on it after you turn in this revision plan. And I'm also going to be posting I try to go through the drafts of the reader's guide very quickly, and so that I can give you some feedback quickly in the form of general comments or things that I'm noticing about the reader's guide, which I will be posting hopefully by Thursday this week, okay, so that you can have them for this reader's guide revision plan. Okay, and then a peer response to the editor's projected inquiry draft. So again, you all get to decide this time how to share your feedback. All right. And then also, one more thing that I want to highlight is that the third quarter ends on April 8th at 11:59 p.m. So if there's any late work that you would like to receive credit for, it needs to be turned in by that time. And it needs to be work that was just due within the third quarter, okay? So that should say, I'll fix that, but it should say April 8th, okay? So that's it for this week. Again, try not to be too intimidated by putting together that reader's guide draft. You have done a lot of the work already, okay? So let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you have a great week.